Yep. Give me a nod when you're ready.
Like
Shooter's ready. Stand by.
Hey everyone, this is Matt Gunlock from the 3GIQ podcast. I'm joined here with Frank Gow, my co-host, and today we're going to do our retrospective on Area 8, USPSA Nationals, and the Tactical Games team event. Something we've been wanting to do for a while. I did want to get Andy on here, but in terms of time, trying to marry up all our schedules together has been kind of difficult. So it's going to be me and Frank solo today. So, Frank, you want to kind of lead this off?
Yeah, sure thing. So this, as Matt mentioned, is a direct follow-up to our previous episode talking about preparations going into the Tactical Games team event at Panthera, West Virginia, which happened at the end of August, and also Area 8, as well as Carry Optics Nationals. So first off, Matt, congrats to you and Andy on the finish. You guys ended up second overall out of all the intermediate teams. That's a fantastic finish. And obviously you guys put in the work and you guys went out there and just absolutely killed it. So that's the first thing I want to say is congrats to you and Andy. Looking back in retrospect, and we talked a lot about your preparations in terms of working out, shooting, and then basic logistical groundwork before going into the Tactical Games. Is there anything that you would change about your guys' preparation?
So honestly, I should say, obvious to me now, but realistically, I would probably focus a lot more on my cardio still, and I felt like I did quite a bit of cardio. So that is something that is a weak area for me. I recognize that, and I need to continue working on it. I would probably take a deeper dive into my diet. Me and Andy were talking diet a lot while we were up there. So I'll, in preparation for future events, I want to really do a deep dive on my diet and really just kind of focus on what I put in my body. And another aspect is I'm huge on tobacco. I dip a can of, Grizzly Wintergreen a day. And I've been doing it for years, almost 20 years now. I do want to quit, and I know it's just going to make me a better competitor and a better athlete if I did get rid of that aspect of my life. Save my teeth, save my life, keep me from getting cancer and all that other bullshit. So those are some things I really want to change. I felt strength wise, I was pretty strong. And shooting wise, I honestly didn't put a lot of work into my shooting, leading up to the event. The last time I shot prior to this event was at 3-man 3-gun back in June. Other than that, I didn't put I went to the range maybe 2 times, got zeros, got holdovers, and did a quick workout, couple quick workouts where I was shooting under stress, and that's really it. And I'm able to do that just because of all the reps and trigger presses I have in the past. So I don't change my gear. One thing I constantly tell people to do is don't change something you're already comfortable with. So if you're already comfortable with your gear, don't go to a match changing your gear at the last minute. I don't think Andy would really change much of anything that he's doing. Andy's just a physical specimen, who can, he can just work and just keep going. He was very strong out there, and he's also a really solid shooter. So, hats off to him. we both have our strengths. What really, honestly, what I think really set us apart was our shooting ability.
Yeah, very nice. So we talked about this a little bit when I called you after the games. How did you feel coming out of day two? And I feel like that's the largest indication of how well you prepared in terms of physical fitness. If your body's completely trashed at the end of day two, then there's a sign that you need to work on the endurance and stamina piece a little bit. But how did you guys feel at that award ceremony?
Honestly, we felt pretty good. Obviously, we were both sore, but to be quite honest, I wasn't dying. I could still walk fine, even like the next day where you would really be feeling it. Going home. I actually felt pretty good, which does tell me that I did the right stuff in preparation. I wasn't dying, if that's what you're asking. I could, when we had to get up and go get our trophies and everything, had to walk up there, grab the trophies, go down a steep hill, then walk back up a steep hill. I actually felt pretty good, and even in between battles, I felt like my recovery was just fine. Like I knew when I just had to sit, and I knew whenever I had to move around.
Yeah, that's great. I haven't done enough of these. I'd say there's a huge difference between just being completely like feeling like you're broken and that you went beyond your capacities at the end of that second day, and then feeling good about yourself like you guys did. I want to talk a little bit about the actual battles themselves. So, in terms of execution, what would you and Andy change, if anything, about the way you approach those battles?
So James Gill gave me a really good bit of advice, you know, about a week or two prior to the tactical games event. After we got done with the interview with Jared and him, me and Gil stayed on for about 45 minutes after, just talking. And, one of the biggest things he told me is, remember that it is just one battle. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So don't gas yourself out between every battle. Make sure your hits count, and make sure you are pushing yourself, but not pushing yourself hard enough to where you're not going to be able to perform well for the next battle. So that's the approach that we essentially took. And quite honestly, um, you know, in certain ones, like I could tell Andy, hey, we need to slow down, or like I'll just come out and say it, like the run. Um, we started out the run too fast. You got to figure you're wearing a flak that weighs 15 pounds. You're carrying a rifle. You're wearing a belt with your pistol on it. Let's estimate 20-25 pounds worth of extra gear on your person. And I want to say when we started our run, and it was about a 3.5 mile run. I would say three and a quarter, 3.5. Our first mile, we were averaging about 9 to 9.5 minute mile. That was way too fast. We just went too fast, and quite honestly, that first mile, I was gassed to the point where I told Andy, I was like, I'm walking. I was like, I have no more energy. Um, Granted, it was probably between 85, 90 degrees. There was no wind. The sun was out. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It was miserable. So I told Andy, I was like, I I can't go. I can't run anymore. Let's just go at a fast forced march speed. Let's keep it around 15-minute miles. Um, and that's the approach I want to take. I know my body. I knew at what point I was at that. And I knew if I pushed myself harder, I would have probably been a heat case, as I've been a heat case in the past, throughout my career. I just didn't want to risk the event for us. So what really saved us during that, because even though, like, I would say we had probably a mid-pack run time, if you want to call it a run time, I think we came in at 48 minutes, but what really saved us is our shooting ability. Because the way it was set up is, first you start out in the chute, you run to a barricade and you do a reverse kneeling or a sitting position, and your partner shoots 8 rounds, 2 rounds per target, 4 targets out there, and then you shoot 8 rounds at the target. You run about 30 to 50 yards to the next implement, which was a rooftop, and then your partner starts shooting. Once he's done shooting, you start shooting. Then once you both are cleared out there, you run to the next barricade, and you're in the prone, and your buddy shoots 8 rounds, and then you shoot 8 rounds. And we got all the way up to the last round. I did not fire my last round off, but we also had the least amount of penalties, not just for division, but for the entire between all the athletes and all the teams that were out there. We had the least amount of penalties, and that just comes down to is we've been doing this long enough to where we know our weapons, we know our holds, and we know how to shoot. So that probably moved us from a mid-pack finish down to a fourth place finish on that battle.
Yeah, very nice. So, yeah, the other question I thought of was, you guys had to take it a little slower during the run. Were there any other instances in which, confronted with the battle, you guys had a deliberate conversation about taking maybe a more efficient or conservative approach rather than like possibly overtaxing yourselves and causing issues for later battles? The incident that comes to mind out of last year's tackle games was Jared and I decided to, instead of like just clean and jerking those axle bars, just taking them as a unit and like carrying them together. You could carry it by yourself, but if you carry it all the way down and you couldn't get it back, then you and your buddy had to like bring it all the way back and then do another run to make up for that initial failed run.
So I would say that there really wasn't a whole lot of that this year, but one of the battles we had to, it was our first battle of the day, and we had to really watch our efficiency on it. It was a 2-part battle, and you know, burpees mattered, and being able to get down and get your hits, that mattered. The second part of it, it was just 12 minutes of walking with 100-pound sandbag, getting it to the yoke, dropping it, both individuals getting over the yoke, picking the sandbag up, getting to the other side, and then doing the same thing over again. And I want to say it was 50 yards down, 50 yards back, roughly. And you had to do that for 12 minutes straight. Starting that already taxed, you want to really conserve how fast you go. On that battle, I think we came in 6th place overall. So we were definitely a little bit more conservative, but I think it set us up for success for the next 2 days.
Nice. You mentioned it a little bit just about like when you needed to sit and when you need to keep moving, but would you change anything about the way you guys were covered in between battles?
I definitely didn't prepare with snacks, and like snacks I had, and I ate snacks, but I should have. Andy's really good about it, me not so much. I should have brought meals and actually ate full meals, so because you're just burning so many calories. Like,
Yeah.
I guess you can have. I think a conservative average of calories burned per battle is probably around 500 to 600 calories per battle.
Yeah.
So you really need to take the time to, in between each battle, to fuel up. And
Yes.
I've always been horrible at that.
Yeah, you've mentioned that even during 3-gun matches. I find everyone's different. I think Jared he brought out like a bunch of deli meat and all that stuff, tortillas, cheese. I just bring out a loaf of bread and peanut butter and jelly and just make those throughout the day. But at a certain point, like I understand why you neglect it. Eating does become a chore during these things.
Oh yeah, like
You have to force things on. Yeah.
I brought out freaking peanut butter and jelly sandwich things, the frozen ones, the Uncrustables.
Uncrustables. Yep.
Yeah, I brought those out because that's my traditional range food. But like Andy brought out like ground deer meat and ground beef and rice, and he was eating that as his meals. And like that's gonna fuel you. It's a chore to eat, but like that's the type of stuff you want to eat.
Yeah. Okay. So nutrition definitely. And you mentioned diet earlier as well. Something the games are famous for is if there's a certain part of your kit that isn't rock solid, it's probably going to expose that just based on everything that you're doing. Did anything fail for you guys? A sling, a mount, any of that stuff?
So I felt in terms of our kit, everything we showed up with was perfect. I know I complained some about my flak that I was using. And I think it's just going to come down to I find something that's comfortable for me. There are times where I just felt that whenever I run, for instance, I like to hold the flak away from my body. I hate having the flak tight because then I feel like when I'm running, I can't breathe. I can't expand my lungs.
Yeah.
So I run a certain way whenever I have kit on, so I can breathe better. Other than that, like during all the other battles, I felt really solid for. The only thing I would change, and it's a personal preference on my rifle, is I would take my offset irons off. I have 45-degree offset irons. Whenever you're on specific barricades, like the VTAC barrier or one of the other barricades that they had, and you're having to use like the real slim offset port.
Yeah.
um, we had trouble at times getting the rifle through the barricade to where it's like where the barrel or the muzzle brake isn't touching the wood. But I mean, we did fine. I would take my offset irons off next time.
Okay.
And I didn't use them at all during the match. I thought maybe there might be an opportunity to use them, but realistically, there was none. I didn't have to.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. Out of all the stages, which one was your favorite to run, and which one did you guys detest the most?
Um, well, I can tell you right now, I'll start with the one that I hated the most, and that was the run. I, it was probably one of our worst, but, best finishes just because the shooting went really well.
Yeah.
And that makes it, and I know we were the best. We were told we were the best shooters as we just got done shooting because like the judges were like, "Oh my God, can you guys teach us how to shoot? Like you guys did better than everybody out here." And we are like, "Are you serious?" And we felt like we did horrible. I think we had probably 6 misses apiece, out of 36 rounds total. But that was the best. But because there was the run, I hated it the most. Not gonna lie. Uh, so I really enjoyed El Cartel. So El Cartel this year was a floater stage. Um, it was really fun. It was a different. It was set up a bit differently this year compared to last year. One person is shooting pistol and one person is shooting rifle. Instead of last year, is both people shooting a rifle at the same time and both people are shooting pistol. Me and Andy split it up to where I was shooting pistol and Andy was shooting rifle, and we came first in our division. And then and like once you were done shooting, you had to run over to a 200-pound or was a 225-pound sandbag. Both of you pick it up, throw it in the back of the SUV, and then get in. So that was really fun because there was a huge 3-gun multi practical shooting aspect to it. And that's my forte. That's what I'm good at. There was another stage that was fun. I think it was Hurry Up Mate. I believe it was that one. I can't without having the stages. I wanted to print the stages and I don't have access to them now. But it was the last event we did on no, it was the rescue. That's what it was. And both individuals had to work together, basically carrying the barbells down, carrying them back. That was really fun. Actually, no, I take it back. My favorite one that we did was the split to fit. And that battle right there, one person had to carry a sandbag and an axle bar, and the other person had to carry the Husafelt stone and drag a sled. And the reason why that was really fun is, you know, I'm the guy, Andy just took off and Andy was flying with the sandbag and the Husafelt, or the sandbag and the
The barbell.
axle bar. And then I threw the Husafelt stone up on my shoulder, put the rope around my body and just took off. And I was catching up to the guys that were close to Andy. And it was a really good feeling because we were the first guys down there, the first guys shooting, the first guys back. And I think we had a first place finish in that stage as well. So it just felt really good.
Yeah, it's always a good feeling when you can start shooting before everyone else. Similarly, it's a terrible feeling when you get up to the line and everyone's already dumping max.
Yeah.
So awesome. If there's anything that the games are really good at, it's endowing you with a hatred for a certain inanimate object. What was that for you guys this time around? Which implement did you hate the most at the end of it?
Uh, Honestly, it was that damn yoke bar. That one stage from the 24-minute battle where we had to carry the 100-pound sandbag down and back and get over the yoke. That to me, the yoke bar still was at a reasonable amount to where you could jump over it, but you had to plant the sole of your foot of one of your feet on that yoke bar, or it didn't count. So that in and of itself was really taxing, and to do that for 12 minutes straight, it was just a grind, and it just really made me hate the freaking yoke.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Um, the games last year were not run on the best schedules, and there was numerous reasons for that. But from a match director perspective, what changes did they make this year around that made it run smoother?
So I think there was a limit as to how many participants were there. But also the schedule was just, everything just flowed really well. I think by having just 3 stages a day and a floater stage, one each day, I it was more well organized. And the way they did it is, like, on the first day it was going to be a shooting intensive floater stage, and then on the second day it was going to be a physically intensive floater stage. And the battles, they kept it to certain timelines, um to where nothing took too long. The run wasn't a 5.25 or 5.5 mile run, like it was last year. It was 3 miles or just over 3 miles, because in events like that, not everybody is the same physical condition. So some people are going to take longer than others. And then you're going to have other battles falling behind because not everybody's there. So just overall, like, construct and thought process going behind it all, it went really well.
Okay, yeah, that's good to hear. Any shout outs you want to make, and do you want to call out any of the people that you met during the games?
So I wouldn't say I really met a whole lot of new people for last year compared to this year. It was just really good to see guys that I hadn't seen since last year, like Ned Freer, Carla. I see and I talk to all the time. Tess Saab, Carla and Tess. They came in first in the women's elite, and they worked their ass off, and they did a really good job. And they're just really good people for the sport, and just good people in general. They're individuals who are always encouraging other competitors to push themselves. Jared Halbert did a really great job. Um, Jake Jake Mizzle did a really good job. Just all the staff at the match. Like, if it wasn't for the staff and the volunteers, these wouldn't happen. So they were really professional, just ran it really good. And it was really fun to be out there and see them all.
Yeah, for sure. I'll double down on the volunteers. Having been a volunteer myself, it takes volunteer work in order to make these games happen. And it's not the best job because you're usually dealing with sweaty, like disgruntled, pissed off people. So yeah, absolutely wouldn't have been able to happen without them.
And I have one more shout out. Shannon Cofield. She's really cool people. Really fun to be around. Probably one of the smartest people there at the game. She's like literally a NASA scientist.
Is
But
she Geoshans?
yes,
Yeah,
Geo
yeah.
Shands. Cool person, just fun to talk to. And you know, she does she tries to she gives back where she can in the sport. And
Yeah.
it's great to see her out there.
I think she was a volunteer last year.
Same this year.
So okay. Yeah, that's awesome. So second place finish for both you and Andy. The slate for tackle games is out for the rest of the year, still has yet to be released next year. What's next, purely in terms of competing within the tactical games?
So me and Andy talked. We both want to get involved in the individual events. We both want to compete in those. Um, I think Andy plans on doing one probably at the end of next month or something like that. Not sure. But I know he's gonna start hitting into it heavy. He's missed competition, like him coming out for this competition. It was the first time he's competed since he got out of the Marine Corps in 2019.
Oh wow.
So he wants to get back at it, and this is how he wants to go back at it. Um, I want to get in at least one individual event, and then I also want to do team event again next year, just because I'm never going to give up three gun. That's like my bread and butter, the thing I love the most. So I'm gonna find, probably either do one of the events down in South Carolina or Ohio next summer. It's really going to depend on my schedule when I start my new job.
Yeah, for sure. And last thing, so you guys went out there and killed it, and the very next week you had your retirement ceremony. How did it feel that entire week in general, knowing that, you worked really hard and you performed really well at this very like punishing, demanding event, almost as a capstone to your Marine Corps career? It must have been a pretty good feeling.
It was kind of like the cherry on top of everything. It was like, you know, me and Andy, we went out there and we wanted to go out there just for the experience. It was Andy's first time competing. Um, and the competitive side in us were like, we want a podium. Um, so when we actually made that happen, it it was just really fulfilling. Like in a major match setting, that was the first time like I'd ever gotten called up to a stage and been given a trophy like that. Well, it's not my first time. I think my first time was Bianchi Cup, but really don't count that. Like that's something that for this one, I would say this was by far one of the most intensive preparations I've done for a match. And to go up there and get second place with Andy, doing something with a friend that I hadn't seen in a while and us accomplishing our goal, it was just the cherry on top of the end of a career. It's kind of full circle. Um, you know, when they say like you'll always remember the people that you served with, and you always want to make time with the people that you serve with. Like this was a perfect opportunity to make that happen for the both of us.
Yeah, and it's also important. We talked about this a little bit for your retirement podcast, but knowing that you still got some in the tank and there's still better things ahead for you, I think is a great mentality to have as you
Hmm.
one career and move into another.
Yeah, because so many people like, a couple people are like, "Oh, I hope you're not going to be one of those guys that just gets out and gets fat and happy." And it's not. No, it's like I, I'll say this: like while on the team, I didn't focus on my physical well-being nearly as much as what I've done in the past. The job hasn't necessarily called for it. I did enough to where I could do okay within my fit with the physical fitness test. But other than that, it's not like I was just trying to go out there and just kill myself every day. Um, but you know, this has kind of rejuvenated that effort that now I can actually really take the time, focus on my physical well-being, and just go out there and kill it. It lets me know that I still have something in the tank, and that, everything, what people don't realize half the time, it's all in your head. And
Yeah,
if you can get over that, you can do anything.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's great advice for anybody.
So, I guess we're gonna go into your segment. So we're gonna kind of combine Area 8 and Nationals. But overall, how do you feel about your performances with both Area 8 and Nationals?
Area 8 was a big disappointment. It was easily the worst match I shot during the summer season. And we can go in a little bit into the why. Nationals, I'm okay with where I placed. Um, I basically validated my classification, and there was a lot of heat there. I wish I could have done better, but realistically, there's a lot of other factors in my life, and I've had to contend with the fact that I don't think I'm ever gonna have the capability to be a pure competitor.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot of other things going on, a lot of other commitments that I have. So, but yeah, area 8 stopped me pretty hard, man.
Dump, dumpster fire.
Yeah, and uh, it was, I mean, if you look at my stage performances, I just fell into a rut. If I'm going, the thing that I wasn't used to was how fast the swingers were. And like swingers, I'm okay at shooting like a full swinger, but they were cutting off like the top quarter of an IPSC target, and it was hidden behind a barrier. Um, and there's a video where I sent 4 on them and none of them hit. And that's because I was reacting to the ground rather than like preemptively shooting at it. I should have been ambushing the target instead of trying to track it, which is what I usually do. Um, there was a pendulum swinger that just like I shot 2 in the no shoot. That was the first stage of the day. So that, and I think also like overall, we shot, man, we shot like 15 stages in one day. And most of your sectional matches, your level twos, it's going to be 10 stages in one day, 9 or 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nationals, they throw 6 or 7 at you per day. Um, that was the most shooting I've ever done in one day. And I was just totally burnt out by the end of it.
Mm. Yeah, I like, I think in terms of three gun, typically in a major three gun match, you're doing 3 to 4 stages a day, but typically our stages are a lot longer. Um, you know, Average stage, in a major match, if it's a base stage, it's going to be between 30 and 40 seconds for the average competitor. Um, and But some of the stages, when you go more into your natural terrain, long range, stuff like that, now you're looking at between 60 seconds, I would say between 50 and 90 seconds is what you're doing. And then like if you're doing like a Blue Ridge 3 gun championship type stage, okay, the fastest shooter is going to be off that stage at 130 seconds. So, it's typically a lot longer stages in 3 gun, which is why you're typically doing three to 4 stages a day. Um, but doing 10 stages, 12 stages, 14 stages in one day, mentally, that's draining.
Yeah, it was the first time doing that. And to your point, like those 3, I mean, with 3 gun, like it takes a long time to reset those stages too.
Mm-hmm.
The entire squad's got it, especially in one of those jungle runs, not to mention scoring and all the other stuff. So, um, yeah, it just, I mean, we brought like water, snacks, and all that stuff. But at a certain point, like, I don't think I was very careful about it either. I approached it just like any other match, and I try to like be on my feet a lot in the beginning, like helping resetting and stuff. And I think that wore me out a little faster than usual. And I'd have to admit that I am not. I don't think I'm completely back. I'm not where I was before the injury. Just the stamina and the endurance that I had before I got injured is not there. Like legs and lower back are just trashed at the end of the day,
Hmm.
and I could feel myself getting slower and slower um, as I was shooting those stages.
So, you and I spoke about this in between Area 8 and Nationals, and we specifically talked about burnout. Um, what do you think really just contributed to that burnout, and how would you mitigate it next time?
Yeah, it was overestimating my abilities to do everything, which is a common theme. It's just the way I am. I wanna go out and do things. It just in this case, I don't think it particularly worked out. Area 8 shot that, and then that very next week I had to go in start classes at Georgetown. And at the same time, like had some conversations with my wife, and she was like, "You're gone shooting a lot," and I know I agreed to it. Like you showed me the entire schedule, but I think just looking at dates on paper doesn't necessarily prepare you for somebody being away on all the days that she's off and having to take care of our dog and all these other things. I think that all just really compounded. Part of it too was me, like I I just didn't execute on a lot of those stages, but I think a lot of the life factors caught up to me, and um, yeah, trying to get practice time in, dry fire time, travel to matches, do all my reading, and I mean, want if we want to talk about nationals, I think that's where it was like this isn't tenable. Because I flew out on Wednesday for nationals. I flew out on the same flight as the team. That entire flight over, I was reading a book on PDF, taking notes. And then on that Thursday, we walked stages, and the rest of the day, I was trying to finish that book. And then Friday, we shot in the morning. Friday night, I was reading again. Saturday morning, like we shot in the PM. Like every moment that was not spent shooting or walking a stage or eating with the team was spent doing homework. And graduate school is just another level that I'm not. I'll be honest, like it it has been a little overwhelming because it's 3 books a week. Um,
Oh,
yeah, and not only that, it's like honestly, I could probably sit there in class and just be quiet and get by on the fact that I just skimmed it. But I'm paying to be at Georgetown. I was selected for this program, and I want to do just like everything. I want to do everything well. And I think in this case, like personal responsibilities as a husband, responsibilities as a student, and my endeavors as a shooter, I ended up doing none of them well.
So what are you going to change for next year? Like, how are you going to attack the problems? Because obviously your grades need to reflect as if you're doing well, and you want your marriage to work. How are you going to prioritize?
Yeah. Honestly, at this point in my life, I am less busy than my wife. She's the one going through residency. She works as many as 80 hours a week sometimes. So I can't presume to continue to be selfish and take a lot of time for shooting and assume that it's just going to work out in the long term. Just to like underscore how much happened this last week, that entire sequence happened. Wednesday, flew to Alabama, walk Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, shoot. As soon as we're done shooting on Sunday, went to the airport. I didn't get in. I didn't get into Dulles until like 2 in the morning. I didn't get home
Oh,
until 2 in the morning. And the next day, I got up at like 6 so I could pack for school. And I took the VRE in, and so I could bike to Georgetown because it's stupid expensive to drive into the city.
hmm.
Like you will get raked over the coals in terms of easy pass and like parking and all the other stuff. And also like driving in the city isn't fun. You know that.
Hmm.
You driving with your Tundra or my Silverado is not it's not something that you look forward to.
And trying to find a garage that allows your vehicle to be inside that garage that has a height enough for our vehicles, it's hard to find.
Yeah. So I did class like Monday. I had class at 9 to like it was 9:30 to 12. And then I went and worked out. I did my reading for the next class, which was from 3:30 to 6. And then I biked, it was raining. I biked in the rain back to the VRE station. And I was actually on the phone with you, Matt. I didn't tell you this, but I got on the wrong fucking train. I got on the fucking VRE going towards Fredericksburg. I didn't realize it because I was reading again on the train. I looked up, I was like, fuck, I don't recognize any of these stops. And I called Annalise and I was like, I need you to pick me up in Woodbridge. Because I'm on the wrong train. It was the last train for the day too.
Oh,
And that was obviously it's another mental error. Like I gotta own that. But like it just underscores like I went to nationals and I didn't give my best performance. I did okay in those classes, but then like, my head was in the clouds and I couldn't even get home on the right train. And I did it again the next day, Tuesday. I had another class yesterday. And now I'm just sitting here and like I'm pretty sore from the biking and all the other stuff and just yeah. Um, I'm sure some people have. I'm sure if I committed to it, I would be able to like figure out a way forward with all three things. But in the immediate future, going back to your question, I got to focus on being a good husband, a good student. Like the shooting will always be there, right? Um, and shooting with the guys on the shooting team and seeing the heights that they reach, like congrats to Raider, Cardi, Nelson, all these other guys. They did fantastic out there. I just part of me knows that on the inside I don't have that level of energy and time to dedicate. And there's some other factors going on too. But looking at like the next season, I just kind of like what you're doing right now. You're extremely judicious about the matches that you're shooting because I think with you it's a quality over quantity thing right now. Like you're like I'm committing to the tactical games or I'm committing to the Duskin and I'm gonna go and those are the only things. Whereas for me, it's like it's so easy to get drawn into like one or two major matches a month, especially with how much the team was shooting this last summer. I'm grateful for it. Like stats on Raider, stats on Corson, like them bringing it. It didn't help them to plan around my being there, right? Like it didn't help. Like they're not. However well I do, me being there doesn't really affect their ability to do their jobs. But I'm thankful that they made that space for me and that I was able to like shoot the summer season. I learned a lot. But I'd say most of it is like just in terms of life balance, like we're at this point again, just like I was post championships. I'm just like, all right, Frank, we got to make some changes going forward.
and I mean, I'm guilty of making the same mistakes too. I think one of the last episodes we recorded, the retrospective, you asked me, how do you balance? And I told you guys, I don't know what balance is. It took my wife getting involved to telling me you need to choose one or two things and stick to that. And, especially whenever it comes to being with the team, it's really easy to get sucked in to go into one match after the other. I mean, even just being on the team, it's easy to get sucked into that. And, all of a sudden you forget what your priorities are and now you're in a hole. So I think I understand what you're going through. And I think the fact that you can recognize what just occurred, I mean, it's mature and it's a good thing. You kind of saw what your upper threshold was, and now you know where to dial back to.
Yeah, and I'm still thankful that I did all of it. I just I'm dealing with the repercussions right now, but realistically, in the next week or so, things will stabilize and I will get in the rhythm of the reading and all the stuff I got to do for school. Um, and I will probably like step back into shooting in the future. Um, a lot of good things came out of the summer season. I learned a lot about my limits, right? Time management, all that stuff, but I learned a lot of good stuff about shooting too. And it's hard not to when you're shooting around Raider, Cardi, Nelson, all these guys who like are really like they're doing really, really fantastic. I would say like it was interesting to see just some of the things that I took for granted break down. Like I'm like, oh, I'm a great stage planner, but then like shooting with the team and just trusting my own instincts instead of going along with the plan that they were all going with. That was an issue for me. At the end of it, I was like, why did I do that? And I was talking to Stash on Corson about it a little bit, and I think there's a certain level of groupthink that goes on with any given squad, like especially the super squad. You know, you watch them, you're like, why are they all running it that way? Well, it's like, well, if you see someone smash a stage one way, then everyone else is gonna be like, oh yeah, of course I'm gonna do it that way. But maybe that wasn't your plan to begin with, and you just don't execute it as well. So a little bit of like, I guess for me, stage planning, individuality, knowing my strengths and like sticking to my game. Also like I think I got really lazy with grip near the end, and that has to do with a little bit with like physical endurance and all that. But I think with the shadow, like you can get away with a pretty sloppy grip and it'll still allow you to shoot accurately. But then your sights aren't returning as quickly and you're not able to push through stages as aggressively. Yeah, and it came clearest to me where there was a standard stage where you had to shoot four on one target, four on the other target, reload, and then four and four again. And I got a good grip on the second string, and I was just like, oh shit, that's what I should have been doing the entire time. Um, Meanwhile, I'm making strides in terms of like target focus, like the dot occlusion, um, moving sooner, all that stuff. But overall, I think I had a similar thought where you mentioned diet in the beginning of this episode. Um, yeah, if there's one thing that the guys in the team have is that they're all light on their feet and quick. And I don't know if I can really be that way at my current weight. So probably need to take a look at where I'm putting my body as well. Um, Work a little bit more of the agility because you have to be able to move quickly in competition. Um, it's important, you know.
I do have to ask, since you've been shooting with the team, who are you most excited, or who's the up and comer that you've been most excited watching grow?
Easily Cardi.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I was his roommate this last weekend too, and I got to see a little bit of the mental process. Um, he's extremely consistent. He's all in terms of his approach. Like this is his job for the next 3 years. He's shooting Carolina State this weekend, like
Jeez.
1 week after nationals. Um, yeah, I don't know how he does it. I mean, I kind of do. Like the dude's not married, and he's able to go out and do these things. Part of me is envious of that, but also like he puts in the work and he takes care of his mind and body extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
And like he attended a JJ Wakaza class. Him and Nelson both did. Um, that was his first like formal instruction from a high level shooter. So like the things that he's going to pick up from JJ, and he's going to continue to go to other classes and stuff. Um, he's only been with the team less than a year. I think that guy's trajectory is going to be astronomical.
Oh yeah. No, I'm excited to see where he ends up by the end of his time on the team. Like your first year, typically in your first year on the team, you're getting your ropes, getting everything underneath you, and you're finding your place. The second year, you're making huge strides. Your third year, you're freaking off the charts typically. And like he's starting off at a very high level.
Yeah.
And just to see where he's going to be at year three, that's going to be cool.
Yeah. Sorry, I got to call out Lieutenant Bodziak as well.
Yeah.
So for somebody who like he made so much progression over the summer season, to the point where he is like shooting better than me in some cases and right behind me in other cases. There's a seriousness there. He's a good dude. He's got a great attitude. So excited to see him progress as a shooter, but also as an officer on the team and the things that he's going to be able to do with the pistol team. Really excited there as well.
I am too. Like whenever he came to the team, him and I sat down for probably a good half an hour long period of time. And John is just a really good dude. He's really passionate about the direction he wants to see the team goes. And he's one of those guys, you know, he's one of those guys that can just listen to what somebody has to say and be like, yes, that is that is what we need to do. And he wants to do what's best for the direction of the team and for the Marines on that team. And I'm really excited to see uh, the team under his leadership. Specifically because, well, pistol team, or I guess you can kind of call him the XO of the team. But I'm really excited to see uh, how the team works while under his leadership.
Yeah, I think they will. They're losing a lot by losing Stash on Raider. He's been with the team for so long,
Hmm.
just knows so much about the sport, has so many contacts. But I also think they're well postured with Cardi, Nelson, Treat, Stashon Corson, and also Lieutenant Bod. I think that core of individuals is going to do great things for the next 2 to 3 years together.
Absolutely. And like I'll even say like under, the action shooting team, the things like you like seeing them out there, like kind of through Facebook seeing them and then talking to Alex Go King yesterday, you know, they're they're gonna grow so well, and they're gonna perform really well. Like they're making some really big strides, not just in their performance, but in their effect within the community. Like people are loving the team. They are good ambassadors to the sport. I was tagged in a video where like Go King and Ariano were just teaching the kids how to do fire and maneuver, and just having them do buddy rushes. And it's like the kids were eating it up and, loving it. And like you know, we're a community that just loves each other, and it's like we're providing good entertainment for everybody, and people love that. uh that's one thing I love about our team is we're just really good ambassadors uh to the sport, and that's one aspect of the team I'm really gonna miss.
Yeah, and I felt a lot of that shooting with those guys. It was tremendous opportunity, especially since I never really got the chance to be a summer shooter. But that ship has sailed. But this is the closest I was ever going to get, and it was an awesome opportunity.
So I do have one more question in terms of your time on with the team this summer. And it goes more into attacking a stage and stage preparation. Like, can you kind of highlight how things were prior to, whenever you were shooting on your own down at Camp Lejeune, and then how you analyze a stage now and attack that stage since you've done it with the shooting team?
Yeah. Before when I was on my own, I would just kind of find all the targets. Maybe I'd show up to a match before and walk stages, or maybe it just, that would be my first time ever. But shooting this many major matches, like there's some things that if I'm going to a major match, I'm gonna do. I'm gonna show up early enough to get a look at all the stages. I don't necessarily print out the match book because it sometimes looks drastically different, but seeing it in person and just like having a provisional plan ready, something that myself, Nelson, and Corson even went as far to do was we had our little like first person cameras. And once we settled on the actual plan, we would walk through the stage with the camera activated. And then I would just share it with those guys over AirDrop, just so we could get like a refresher. I'm like, okay, this is what the stage looks like. Because at Nationals, you have 19 stages. Like at a certain point, like you're not remembering them by the names, you just remember them by the general flow and the way the targets present themselves, or the particular gimmick that's present in that particular stage. Um, Talking and articulating, like with other team members, why target prioritization or precedence generates like flow or something that's just if it flows better, it's going to be easier for you to remember, and not only that, it's going to be better. It's going to be easier for you to execute aggressively. So we will watch each other and be like, why are you shooting the targets in that way? And then like Sam and I will just talk and be like, well, I'm doing this instead. I do think at a certain point that becomes detrimental, especially if like you're just about to go up. Like at a certain point, you gotta lock it in. That's something that I learned from myself. Like at a certain point, you gotta lock in the stage plan and you just gotta roll with it. Like it's better to like burn in an okay stage plan rather than like switch to a great stage plan that you're not going to execute as well and have some like glitches in the matrix. Um, so yeah, just being a lot more procedural with the way we're approaching stages, and realizing like how much time you're losing footwork. What JJ Rakaza says is entries, exits, and transitions where you're gonna end up making up some time. Like you don't really make up a whole lot of time in the shooting. I think I tighten up my grip and probably shoot a lot more aggressively. I tend to over confirm on my stuff, but yeah, that's something else I got to learn about just in terms of moving out of and into positions quicker. But yeah, did that answer your question?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see like the guys who are really competitive, how guys who just go out to have a good time, they just go out there and be like, okay, this is how I'm going to attack a stage. Guys who are really serious about their shooting and their abilities and their performance, they are going to attack and they're going to be very analytical and very specific about what they do. And it's really fun to just watch that.
And there's a reason for everything. Like there's a reason for why this target and whatever. And sometimes it's comfort, and sometimes it's I just want to see what happens. That's the fun about it. That's what I like about the stages where not everyone's going to shoot like slightly differently. It's always fun to like talk to each other about why that is, right? There's a lot of art to it.
Yep. And like specifically in three gun, what I love is like, there are some stages that match directors, they just build to shoot one way. But then you have match directors who build it to where you have options. So it's really fun to just watch how the really good shooters go out there and just plan that stage around what their specific highs and lows are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just say this as a general rule of thumb, like matches kind of assume the identities of their match directors. Like there's certain matches that you just know like the stage designs are going to be quality and are going to put you in those predicaments where you have to choose and you have to like come up with a certain plan. And then there's other matches that are simply like stand and shoot and like very linear. I would push myself like travel the extra hour because the first set of matches I talked about, like that's Sir Walter for me. I will 3 hour drive one way just for Sir Walter.
Yeah, for me, those matches, it's always been Carolina three gun, Carolina Guns and Gear down in Ashboro.
Yeah,
like Jason Byerly and the Zoo City crew put on phenomenal matches, and that's I would say like I would travel that on a weekend. That's a 4 hour drive for me, but I would take the time and drive those 4 hours because one, I'm going to be around some fucking awesome people, and two, I'm going to be around a really good match.
Yeah. It's worth driving those good matches, and also Carolina Guns Gear is really good facility too.
Oh yeah, but I think this kind of wraps it up. So, Frank, do you have anything else?
No, gotta figure out my life.
You're fine. But I hope you really enjoyed this. I hope you kind of got a glimpse of what Frank and I have both been going through over the past few weeks and enjoyed it. If you have any questions for us, or if you'd like us to answer any questions, please reach out. Let us know how we're doing. Rate us on Apple, Spotify, whatever streaming service that you're listening to. Also, we do have the Instagram page and the Facebook page now. So please go on there, leave comments. And if you want to get a hold of us individually, you can drop it in a DM. So thanks for listening. We really look forward to next time. Thanks, guys.